Welcome back to the deep dive. So, when you hear the name Electro Harmonix, what usually comes to mind?
Oh, definitely the psychedelic chaos, right.
Yeah.
Huge swirling sounds.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking Memory Man, Electric Mistress, the Big Muff,
Yeah.
Pedals that just warp reality.
Total signal manglers. That was their signature.
But today, we're doing something a bit different. We're doing a deep dive into an EHX device that's, well, it's famous precisely because it does almost nothing. Our mission today is to figure out how this thing, the signal pad, basically just a foot-controlled volume knob, became such a vital utility tool and, kind of surprisingly, left a real legacy.
It's a fantastic contrast, isn't it? EHX, known for the wild stuff, the modulation monsters, and then there's this.
Right.
The signal pad is like the total opposite. It's hyper-functional, super reliable. It actually came out towards the end of EHX's first big run, before the 82 bankruptcy.
Okay.
It really speaks to that whole necessity is the mother of invention thing.
Okay, let's unpack that right away. If it's not a fuzz or a flanger, what exactly is a volume attenuator in this context? Because, a volume pedal usually means sweeping control.
Yeah, good distinction. You really got to see this as a problem solver for performers. The signal pad wasn't an effect at all. Didn't change your tone.
No coloration.
None intended, really.
Yeah.
Its only job was to let players instantly drop their volume, from full blast down to a preset lower level.
Like a switch.
Exactly. An instant volume dip with your foot, so you didn't have to fiddle with the guitar's volume knob, which can be, let's face it, kind of imprecise mid-song.
And what really jumps out from the sources is just how simple this thing was. Almost ridiculously simple. Like, compared to a deluxe Memory Man, there's basically nothing inside.
Well, yeah. That's key if you look at EHX history. The signal pad's design is 100% passive.
Passive, meaning?
Meaning no active components, zero electronics. It needs absolutely no power supply, no battery, nothing.
Wow. So what is in there?
You're literally getting a variable resistor that's just a volume pot wired between the input and output jacks, and then there's a stomp switch to bypass the whole thing.
So it really is just a volume knob in a box with a bypass.
Pretty much, yeah.
That component list must be tiny. But was that simplicity just about cutting costs, especially during those leaner years for EHX?
Yeah.
Or was the pure signal path the main selling point?
I think it was probably both, and that's what makes it kind of brilliant. It was definitely cheap to make, which, yeah, that was critical for them financially around that time. But the passive thing is also key to why it works so well.
How so?
Because it needed zero power, it was basically indestructible, super reliable, rugged, and it didn't add any noise like active circuits sometimes can.
Right, no hiss or hum from the pedal itself.
Exactly. It came in that little steel wedge box case, like the LPB1 booster, pure utility gear. And this is a really important point from our sources number 2. I think it's one of the very few stomp boxes ever made that needed absolutely no power. That's a pretty radical design choice, right? Function and toughness over sonic bells and whistles.
Maximum reliability, zero complexity. Got it. But that brings up the big question. If you've already got a volume knob on your guitar, why buy a separate pedal just to turn down? What was the actual need?
Okay, so that gets us right to the core use case. What players started calling the poor man's channel switcher.
Poor man's channel switcher. Explain that.
Okay, think about a classic tube amp, maybe an old Marshall or Fender, especially the non-master volume kind.
Yeah, got to crank them to get the good stuff.
Exactly. You get your killer, high-gain, overdriven lead sound by turning that amp up loud. That's your sound. That's your lead channel, effectively.
Okay.
But then what happens when the song shifts? You need a cleaner, maybe quieter rhythm part. You have to drop the volume instantly, but you don't want to mess with the amp's gain setting.
Right, you can't just turn the amp down.
And if you try to roll back the volume knob on your guitar while playing, well, there are problems. First, it's fiddly. Hard to hit the exact same spot every time.
Yeah, never quite the same.
Second, rolling back volume on many guitars kills your treble. Your clean sound gets kind of dull and muddy. Treble bleed, they call it.
Oh, right. Hate that.
And third, it just takes concentration and fine motor skills you might need for, actually playing the guitar.
Okay, I see it now. So the signal pad, it solves all that.
Instantly. You just preset the rhythm volume. You want the attenuated volume using the pedals knob. Then one stomp takes you from that roaring lead down to a perfectly consistent rhythm level.
And it keeps the amp's core tone because the amp itself is still cranked.
Precisely. Yeah. It's like having a dedicated B setting for your volume. And that consistency, that repeatability, that's gold for live players.
It's total sense.
But it wasn't just about loud lead versus quiet rhythm. The sources point out a more creative use, too, sticking it before your distortion or fuzz pedals.
Oh, interesting. Not at the end of the chain, but before the dirt. How does just lowering the input volume change what a fuzz does? Doesn't it just make it quieter?
Well, that's where it gets a bit more technical, especially with like older fuzz circuits or certain distortions.
Okay.
See, those pedals often react really dynamically to what's hitting them, the impedance, the voltage from your pickups. When you put a passive attenuator like the signal pad before the fuzz, you're essentially starving its input.
Starving the input.
Yeah, you're not just lowering the volume the audience hears, you're changing how hard your guitar signal slams into the pedal's clipping circuit.
So full volume bypass, the fuzz is maybe super saturated, really compressed.
Right, but then you stomp the signal pad, drop that input level, hitting the fuzz, maybe by 30% or whatever you set, and suddenly you're hitting that first transistor stage much softer.
Yeah.
The result is often like a looser sound, more open, less compressed. It effectively gives you a second lower gain preset for your fuzz pedal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Without even touching the fuzz knobs.
Exactly. It turns your one sound fuzz into something more versatile just using this simple utility box.
That's actually pretty clever. Now, since it was passive, did EHX run into issues with, signal loss or tone suck, especially with long cables?
Well, yeah, passive circuits always interact with capacitance and impedance to some degree. Long cable runs would definitely roll off some trouble, sure, especially when the signal pad was engaged because it's acting as a variable load.
So there was a slight trade-off.
There was, but for most players, the sheer utility and the bulletproof reliability made it totally worth it. You got to remember where it fit in the EHX catalog back then, late 70s, early 80s.
Where did it sit?
Right alongside other really focused utility tools, stuff like the Switchblade, which was just a simple A/B signal switcher, or the Hotfoot, which was an early kind of expression controller. EHX was building this practical toolkit for players.
Right, not just the wild effects. Okay, so if the circuit is so simple, literally just wires in a pot, what's the big deal for pedal history? Why is it influential if, anyone could build one?
Well, that's kind of the paradox. Its influence is really foundational because it sort of institutionalized the idea of needing instant, foot-controlled volume presets.
Okay.
You're right. The original signal pads are rare now, but they aren't crazy expensive or super collectible because the circuit is so simple. Anyone could build one. The value isn't really in the specific vintage hardware.
It's in the concept.
Exactly. It's the market concept it proved. Think about today's gear. Multi-channel amps, MIDI switchers, digital modelers, they all rely on instantly recalling specific volume levels.
Yeah, presets are everything now.
The signal pad really laid the conceptual groundwork for that. It showed players and manufacturers, hey, having a dedicated, consistent, foot-switchable volume change isn't just a nice-to-have, it's essential for pro-level live playing.
So it moved that volume control from the guitar body, where it's kind of fiddly,
down to the floor, where it's stomp-and-go reliable. It's really an evolution in the control interface for guitarists.
And the fact that this super simple idea is still around, that says something.
Absolutely it does. That endurance is key. That's the third really important point about its history. EHX brought it back. They reissued it in the 2000s as the Signal Pad Nano.
The Nano version, right? Smaller box.
Yep, modern compact format, and they still sell it today. And guess how it's marketed?
Let me guess. Instant volume preset.
You got it. Instant volume preset pedal. It proves that even with all the complex digital stuff available, there's still a solid market for a simple, reliable fix to a fundamental problem. That reissue proves the need never really went away.
Okay, so that pretty much brings us to the end of this deep dive. We've seen how the signal pad carved out its niche in EHX history. Number one, it showed that practical, problem-solving side of a company famous for being experimental.
Right, the utility angle.
Number two, it was this rugged, totally passive pedal needing zero power. Super reliable.
Bulletproof.
And number three, its core idea was so fundamental, so useful, that it earned this long life through reissue and really influenced how we think about volume switching today. It just solves one very specific, very real problem for musicians.
Exactly. And, this kind of leads to that final thought we should probably leave you with.
Yeah.
The signal pad really proves something important, I think. In audio tech, the innovations that stick around, the ones that end up being truly valuable, they aren't always the flashiest ones creating crazy new sounds. Sometimes the real breakthrough is just a minimalist little device that gives musicians precise, reliable, immediate control over the sounds they already have.
control, not just creation.
Right. So it makes you wonder what other really simple utility concepts might be getting overlooked today. Just waiting for someone smart enough to basically put a resistor in a box and solve another persistent, practical problem for people.
Definitely some food for thought there.
Oh,
Well, thank you for diving deep with us today.
my pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one.